Okay, hi everybody, this is Renee Signs. Been working on the U-2 plug. And actually I was going to lay down some lines for the gear doors, but in the process of doing that I realized that the contour here, this is actually where the main gear is going to be. Those of you that know the U-2, it's a bicycle configuration, so main gear is actually up here, and then there's a tail wheel assembly further down. And the problem with the contour here is the way the gear doors work. It's a piano hinge where they where they pivot, and the problem with the contour in relation to the piano hinge is that it's got to be a straight line. And I noticed just when I was getting ready to lay down the line that there's a bit of a dip. So I've roughed up this area a little bit just to check it. Got a straight edge. This is kind of where the gear door hinge line is going to be. And just laying it down, I can see that there is a dip. A little bit of a dip. It's a good size. So what I'm going to have to do is rough this up. I've already taped this area off. I'm going to rough it up, build this area up to where I can make this kind of just a single radius, so that I can use a piano hinge right here at this point to get the doors to open correctly without binding, and then blend this into the rest of the fuse. So tape this area off. I've done a lot of work, I've done a lot of polishing, so I don't want to ruin more than what I've got to, and I think if I can just rough this up, put a little bit of glass here to build it up with some filler, and then hit it again with my primer. I think it'll be fine. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, getting the drill out with the grinding wheel. Yeah, I hate doing this, but got to do it. Do it right. Or don't do it at all. Okay, so now I'm finished grinding the surface down. As you can see, I went ahead and just to kind of summarize, the issue was this hinge line right here. These are the actual main doors. I kind of redrawn them, but the hinge line, and this is being the center line, was not straight. It was the type of hinges that the full-size U-2 uses is a piano style hinge, from what I understand. So, and the problem was I had a dip right here where this hinge line was, so it wasn't going to allow. It was going to have. Wasn't going to allow for me to use a piano hinge, and if I did, it would be binding up. So what I've been doing is I built up the surface to where I could get a straight line on this hinge line, and I've been laying a ruler across just every so often to check my work. Did both sides, ground down the finish, which was painful because I'd spent so much time polishing this. It was a little bit of a blessing because I wasn't happy with this, some of these panel lines that I drew, so I'll get to redraw some of these anyway as a result. But first thing I did was roughed it up with a little grinding wheel. And then I built it up with fiberglass first and try to get it as close, get this hinge line here and this hinge line here as close to flat as I could. Then, and I'll zoom in a little bit here. You can kind of see the work, but that's a better view. I've just laid down some filler right here, but you can see where this pink stuff down here is Bondo. I'm kind of going with my fingers to feel for any other bumps. Fiberglass. Put some peel ply down so I can get a nice surface. Then fill that, the voids between the fiberglass. And I put, some areas have one layer, some have 3 layers of fiberglass. Whatever it took to get this line right here where it's flat, where my ruler doesn't rock at the hinge line, on both sides. Then I came in with Bondo. And then now this white stuff that you see on top, this is kind of like glazing putty. Actually, the stuff that I use is Evercoat, and I really like it because it's sands really nice and gives me a nice finish. So you can see I've done some Evercoat here and here. I still found a little bit of a dip right here, so make sure looks like I've got it pretty good. So I went ahead and put a little bit more Evercoat here, and I'm waiting for that to, it's still a little tacky, but it's dry for the most part. I'm going to let it harden all the way, though, before I start sanding it. So, yeah, I'm happy with this shape now. So it looks like I can, once I sand this down and get it reasonably smooth, I can just mask off everything and then just hit it with some primer, surfacing primer again, and sand it and wet sand it and polish it out, and it'll be as if nothing ever happened. Because of this, I went ahead and checked the other location for the rear gear, and it looks like the doors are going to be perfect. So I'm not going to have to worry about grinding that, but that's that. All right, so kind of fast forward a little bit here. Got the surface all nice and clean and smoothed out with some 320 grit, and then masked it off. I didn't show all that stuff, but I did mask off the area and shot some more, or the last little bit of the primer I had. It was starting to go bad, so hopefully it cures out okay. There's some little bumps, I don't know if you can notice, but just some little specks and where it started to crystallize already. So I'm not too worried about it. I put on a thick coat. I'm going to try to now wet sand it down. I'm going to mask it off again just so I don't start scratching some of the areas that I've polished, but I'm going to mask off a slightly larger area and start blending it into the existing primer, and hope for the best. It should be okay. Worst case, I got to order another can of primer and just for this little area, but that's the only reason I even tried using this primer. I knew it was starting to go bad. It was towards the end of its life, but it looks good. I'm happy with it. If I can just sand it down, get rid of some of these little bumps, little grains, just a little bit of orange peel. What I did was I thinned it down pretty good with normally I just shoot it straight, put about 2% MEK and then shoot it through my gun. And it usually goes down pretty good, but I did, because I knew it was starting to go bad, put in a little bit of extra MEK and thinned it down with some acetone, so it usually works okay. So we'll see. If it doesn't work, then I'll rough it up again and shoot it with some new primer, but I think we'll be okay for now. I mean, this is the area, if you can't tell, that's the area I've redid. I'm happy with the shape, and I think it's going to work out well. So Stay tuned. All right, back on the U-2. So now I've actually I masked this little area off. You can tell now where I've done some little bit of sanding on the primer. It cured really well, pretty quick. So in a couple hours, I was able to start sanding on it with some heavier sandpaper, wet sanded. Got it down to about 220. Took the masking off. Now it's a matter of just blending these edges into the existing surface. You know, after I pulled the tape, I had some raised, and I still got a little bit of raised ridges here from where you know the primer built up on the surface. So I've been slowly. I didn't want to do it too much at a time, but slowly blending it in. Got rid of most, if not all, the orange peel. You know, adding the acetone really worked well. It laid down really nice. So now it's time to hit it with some 320 and start taking it further and further down to where I can actually get to the point where I'm polishing it now, and hopefully when we're all done with this, we won't be able to tell where the repair job was. So let me go ahead and get started and get some 320. I'm just using a 320 wet dry sandpaper over a DuraBlock. I like these. I like using these DuraBlock pads. I got all different shapes and sizes. This one actually is something called roller block. It's got a nice round edge to it. Dual density, good for little areas like this where I don't want to dig in with a corner. I'll just start working my way. I've been fast forwarding through a lot of these steps, but I thought I'd actually show that I really do some work around here. So here's a sponge here, kind of wet that area. I thought I'd show at least some of this. Not too dramatic. And at this point, your hands start becoming better at telling how well you're doing than your eyes do. I mean, your eyes sometimes play little tricks on you, but actually I think I'm doing pretty good on this side. Let me hit it on this side now a little bit more. And blend this. I'm trying not to dig too hard, push too hard. I'm gonna let the sandpaper do its thing. I find that's where I get myself in troubles when I start trying to push or dig too hard and not let the sandpaper do its thing. Let's just wipe the area down a little bit. It's actually looking pretty good here. Let's see if I can just finish this back edge, and then I'll show you what we got. Let's put this in the bucket for now. Clean towel. And it's getting better. Nowhere close, but definitely not where we were before when it was all tore up. Once it dries, it'll get a little lighter. Here we go. You still see some bigger scratches, but that's okay. Those will polish out. But definitely not feeling any lines now here. And now I just need to work on these other 3 sides and then start taking it down even further to where I'm hitting it now with the buffing wheel. So I'm going to keep at it. So stay tuned. All right, so now I've done with the wet sanding. I actually started blending it in with some rubbing compound. And now I'm about to do the step 2 with hitting it with some glaze, sort of progressively finer and finer grit polishes. So this is the stuff I like to use. I took it from 320 to about, then I hit it with 400 grit sandpaper, and then 600, 800, stopped at about 800, and then got the rubbing compound out. This is what I like to use, this mirror glaze. It's a medium cut. There's tons of different kinds. Just use what you like. And now I'm going to hit it with their step 2, which is kind of a finer cut polisher. And I just do a little section at a time. This is really the area right here that we did. There's a little bit of primer shown through, but I'm not too worried about that. It's not a lot. It's actually smoother than it looks. So as long as it's not too much, I'm just going to let it be. And this is just a cheap buffer that I got online, and it's actually a single speed, which is why it was so cheap. But I bought a foot pedal for about 16 bucks on Amazon, and it actually turns it into a variable speed, so it works out really well, and it's actually pretty handy because I can kind of adjust the rate here with just my foot. So that's pretty handy, just a standard foot pedal. This works great. Spread it around a little bit. Kind of slings around. That's what's nice about having the variable speed, because it kind of slops around when you first get started. Just kind of work over the area a little bit, blending it out further and further out with each progressively finer grit, to where it starts becoming hard to tell where the repair job was. And I've gone over it a little bit before firing up the camera, so I did spend a lot more time polishing this out. So just let the polisher do its thing. Make sure I get in here. Alright, let's see what we got. And I'm just spraying just a regular degreaser paint prep. I forgot what I'm using here. Let's see. Yeah, it's this duplicolor grease and wax remover. It's just a good all-purpose cleaner. And I just filled the spray bottle with it. I'll be putting some more in it, but I do it before every time I sand, and definitely before I paint. I'll hit it with this degreaser, and it works really well. I like using it. It's a good cleaner. So let's see. Can still feel a little bit of a ridge here and there, but I'm not going to worry about it too much. I'm really having to feel for it. I can see a little bit of it, but again, it's very minute. I'm able to see and feel, so I'm hoping it won't translate too much into the parts that I pull. Get a nice little rub with clean. These are just old t-shirts. Don't throw away your old t-shirts. They make good shop towels. I keep mine. There we go. Let's take a look at it here. You can kind of see the repair job a little bit. Oops. But I'm pretty happy with it. Now I can go back to where I was this time yesterday when I found the mistake. I can start putting in the marking the gear doors and the panel lines for the bottom, and I'll show how I do that here in a later video. Just wanted to show that you could make a mistake on these plugs, and it'll take a little bit of time, and you gotta think through it a little bit. But there's not too much that can't be fixed on these plugs. So that's all I gotta say. Later.